Ancient India Government and Social Classes by M. Neufeld. Development of civilization. In ancient India, there was two main rivers that the ancient Indians used, the Indus River and the Ganges River. These rivers had villages, towns, smaller villages, cities, and very large cities along them. After cities and villages started to develop along the Indus River, it was then called the Indus Valley Civilization. The Ganges River started at the top of the Himalayan mountains and ran its way through India. Every time it would flood, which was very unpredictable, it would leave rich soil along the river, which was good for planting crops to be harvested. After a few of the floodings, the ancient Indians soon realized that the soil was good for planting crops, so then they started to develop villages that soon were transformed into large cities. The buildings they made were mostly made out of mud bricks, but some were made out of stone. Along with that, they learned how to make water storage structures, drainage systems, and water wells. Types of government. There was no real evidence of government in the Harappan civilization. It was thought they may have had some kings and queens here and there in each area, but after the Indo-European invasion, people were divided up into castes, which is a system of how they were put into their social classes. They were basically a nomadic government, which meant they moved from one system or option to another. Also, as agriculture grew, ancient Indians started to settle into small villages. Usually groups were led by a king, or in Indian, a Raja. Once everyone got settled, they started to develop kingdoms, large cities, and government policies. Then, once the agriculture started to begin, people were settling along rivers and were creating large cities and villages. Finally, they began to have kings in each area so there was some control over the people. Social classes. How the ancient Indians were divided up into their social classes was by a caste system. In other times, they were divided up by the color of their skin, but how this caste system worked was by Varna, which are the four Hindu castes, starting from the lowest class to the highest: the untouchables, the Sudra, the Vaishya, the Kshatriya, and the Brahmin. The others above them were their gods. The Vedic period was the time when the caste system was created. Major events occurred. In 3200 BC, the Indus people developed and learned how to write and created their own writing system. Then, back in 3000 BC, cities along the Indus River were starting to be built. Mohenjo-Daro, one of the largest cities of the Indus Valley Civilization, began to increase in its size, which was in 2650 BC. 2600 BC. Farmers began to learn how to plow their fields. In 3000 BC, the Indus Valley Civilization formed in Pakistan and northern India. The year of 1700 BC is the year that the Iron Age began. Buddhism, a religious belief, is originated and being taught, which is in 520 BC. Sadly, in 1500 BC, the Indus Valley Civilization collapses, but then a new tribe comes and takes over the land. They were called the Aryans. Alphabetic writing began to spread and be taught throughout northern India in 800 BC. After the Aryans came, Alexander the Great, who in 327 BC conquered the Indus Valley Civilization. Major ideas developed. Some accomplishments, whether big or small, helped the ancient Indians in every way possible. One of the greatest and largest cities in India was Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, and they had their own sewage systems. Also, they were one of the first civilizations to use algebra and calculus. Later on, a man named Aryabhata created the number zero and transformed trigonometry, algebra, and arithmetic. In addition, he also figured out how the moon orbits the Earth and precisely estimated the Earth's circumference. There was also a man named Sushruta, who discovered ophthalmologic diseases, signs, symptoms, prognosis, and interventions. He also performed some of the first cataract surgeries in the world. There was also some smaller accomplishments, like jewelry. Ancient Indians loved to make jewelry and make it look fancy and expensive. What they did to make it look like this was to make it out of gold. Art was also something they enjoyed to create. A lot of the things they painted was sculptures and paintings of their gods. Before they learned how to make bracelets and necklaces out of gold, they made it out of wood, so now they wear both. Ink was also something they invented, and they used a sharp needle to write with. The game Snakes and Ladders was also something the ancient Indians developed, which was based on morality. Then there was a ruler, which was made out of ivory, which is also the material that an elephant's trunk is made out of. Then they created the cotton gin, which separates the cotton from its seeds. Important people. A lot of people say that most important people in ancient India were rulers or kings or queens. But this important person was a leader for many. His name was Siddhartha Gautama. He was the founder of the religious belief Buddhism. At first, he had everything he could have wanted: fine clothes, good food, and good servants to wait on him. He later had a wife and a new baby boy. But all he could see was unhappiness, so he left everything to find happiness again. He saw a monk one day and wondered how he could find happiness in a world full of misery, so that very day he decided to become a monk too. He traveled for 6 years as a monk when the other monks started calling him the Buddha or the Awakened One. Then he created the Four Noble Truths because he believed that there are four truths to life. After that, he created the Eightfold Path or the Middle Way. If Indians wanted to end suffering, they needed to follow these 8 laws. Probably one of the most greatest rulers that ruled over ancient India was Chandragupta Maurya. He was the founder and the originator of the Mauryan Empire, which was the largest empire at that time. One of his biggest achievements was joining India into one state, so it was not divided like ancient Egypt was with its upper and lower parts. Next is the grandson of Chandragupta Maurya, Ashoka Maurya. According to history, he was one of the most influential kings or rulers India had ever seen. One reason is because he ruled most of the subcontinent India. He was also the third ruler of the Maurya dynasty. Then, sadly, in 232 BC, Ashoka Maurya passed away. End of civilization. There is a lot of opinion to how the Indus Valley civilization ended, but most people say that it was the flooding of the Indus River. Some other people say that it was the change of the course of the river or the high winds that caused too much or not enough rain for their crops. The monsoons were shifting eastward, which means that the water supply was running out. Because of this climate change, the rivers could not support large cities anymore. This means that later they had to migrate to smaller villages. But one thing could have helped them stay in the Indus Valley civilization, which was irrigation. Ancient Indians did not know how to irrigate their land. Plus, it did not help to how close they were to the rivers. Fun facts. The Himalayan mountains is the highest mountain range in the world. An ophthalmologist is someone who studies the eye. Monsoons is the Indian word for high winds. 10% of the world's population at that time was made up of the Harappan civilization. In 500 BC, the religious belief Jainism and Buddhism are originated. Panas was the unit of money in ancient India. The caste system was created when the Aryans came. Brahmin, the highest member in the caste system, lived in temples away from everyone else. The punishment of a broken law depended on the age of the offender, what caste they were in, and the time of the offense. There was a river in ancient India called the Saravati River, but now it is just a dried up riverbed. When people married out of their caste, it was called mixed marriages. India was very rich in minerals. They included limestone, iron, mineral oil, and chromites. The Indus River is now in Pakistan. The Indian word Buddha means the awakened one. Ashoka Maurya was the most influential ruler India knows to date. Glossary. Harappan civilization, also known as the Indus Valley civilization. Once people started living along the Indus River, then they started to call that area Harappa, which then became the Harappan civilization. Hindu. Hindu is a follower of the religious belief Hinduism. The Vedic period. The Vedic period was when the scriptures of Hinduism were composed and written down. Pakistan. Pakistan is a country in the civilization in South Asia close to India and its northern part. Iron Age. The Iron Age is when the ancient Indians started to use iron in tools and weapons. Alexander the Great. He was a man that conquered many civilizations in his time, including the Persian Empire, Egypt, and the Indus Valley Civilization. Trigonometry. Trigonometry deals with the sides and angles of a triangle. Arithmetic. Arithmetic deals with the properties of manipulation in numbers. Ophthalmologic disease. It is a disease in the eye. Prognosis. The probable course or disease or alignment. Cataract surgery. Cataract surgery is a surgery to remove the lens in your eye and put in an artificial lens. Monk is a member of a religious group who is usually a man. Dynasty, a line of relative rulers in a country. Irrigation, channels of water running through a field. Morality, principles regarding the typical between right and wrong or good or bad behavior. Pictures and captions. The Buddha. The Indus River, part of the Indus Valley Civilization.